Hi friends, Astrologer Joe here. I wanted to do a quick update video around this full moon that we just had on the 19th. I'm doing this video on August the 20th, and we're still in that zone right now because of Saturn and Jupiter still being in a square alignment. But I wanted to show you some of the stuff that actually came out leading up to this full moon and also on the full moon itself. I said that this was going to be a powerful full moon, and a lot of other astrologers have concurred with that. And it wasn't just in the United States. There was some other stuff going on below the radar that I need to bring your attention to because it's vitally important. As you know, we're going through a massive transformation all around the world, really, but because the United States is going through its Pluto return, and it hit the moon's, natal moon. That this full moon was exactly at 27 degrees of Aquarius, and the United States' birth chart, it's 27 degrees of Aquarius. So we will continue to see these changes occurring, but there was some surprises, and that's why I called this video some surprises around the full moon. So let's get into it. This will be a shorter video, and I wanted to show you some of the stories that I've been following and I want to share with you. Okay, so let's get started. We knew that it was a very strong super moon on the 19th, and it also was aligned to Uranus. Now, this is a sign that is absolutely associated with surprises, shock and awe, people, society as a whole, humanity, and innovation, technology. Okay, so here are all the things that I've talked about before that's associated with Aquarius or Uranus, which is basically one and the same. And so discovery, breakthroughs, innovation, invention, sudden awarenesses, that was something part of it. Rebellion. We definitely saw that in Chicago, and I will get into that. It wasn't as bad as we kind of anticipated, but that's good. That's good news. And shocking and explosive. Okay, so this is everything associated with Uranus or Aquarius. They're basically one and the same. But let's go to the chart, and I could show you here what I'm talking about. Of course, we had this giant T-square going on here between the full moon and the sun and retrograde Mercury. And then we had a square to Uranus. Now, as I'm doing this video, obviously the moon has now left and is now in Pisces and will be joining Saturn and Neptune over the course of the couple of days. The big news really is that Saturn will continue to square Jupiter for about another week or so, maybe a little bit longer. So there are changes here in the mix with those two. But this full moon was bringing awareness to something. Okay, it was bringing the light. It was ending. It was completion. It was a realization. That's what full moons represent. All right, so I want to show you some of the stories that I covered. Obviously, I talked about this in previous videos, along with other astrologers. They saw the same thing in the astrology. So Chicago was ready for major escalation in violence and protests and so on and so forth. Fortunately, it didn't happen. Okay, but there are plenty of stories that I was watching on the local news because the mainstream media didn't cover this at all. Not one peep from any of the mainstream media outlets. So this was all local people there with their cameras, and the local news in that Chicago area was covering it. So I found this video. I left the link down below. There were a lot of protesters there, and it wasn't just a few hundred. It was thousands of protesters. Somebody took a drone footage, or it was a helicopter video, and you saw this long line of people with these flags, and I mean, it had to be several thousand people there. Okay, and I don't know, I wasn't there, but it's just, you could see that there were people really getting riled up. And here's the local reporters talking about it, and it was relatively peaceful until they tried to take down the fences, and that's when the police came in. But there was something else going on here at the DNC convention. There were some altercations that were being also activated in the mix, like right inside. And here's one from the Gateway Pundit talking about some skirmishes. As a matter of fact, there was some young girl that ran up to the microphone and started yelling and screaming, and they had to pull her away too. So there were these little incidences that were happening. For the most part, it wasn't, anything eventful. All right. So, but the police did step in when they took down the wall. Here's another video from the local Fox 32 Chicago. I left the link down below, and you could just research all this. It's all over the internet right now. if you know where to look. Again, if you're going to rely on mainstream media, don't hold your breath. So this was a big deal, and this was right now up until today was the biggest event that took place. But the convention is still going, and we might see some more of this stuff over the next couple of days, but we'll have to see. But the other thing that was really strange and weird is that they dyed the river red for this purpose right here. Okay, so this was kind of weird and odd. And this is a surprise. I didn't expect that, So when I saw this story, I says, let me post this. And it was confirmed by some of the people there that parts of the river were red and they were protesting all kinds of and shouting different things about this topic right here. Okay, remember, I have to be very careful what I say here. The AI is listening to everything. That's why I have the private communities. Anyway, also the big news, the big surprise here was that the House Oversight Committee releases a report basically saying that this guy is basically conspired to influence peddling and grift. Okay, and so, anyone that's been following this knows this. The Biden crime family. This has been new. This is no new news for us, but the fact that it happened right on the full moon during the convention, very interesting timing. So again, whoever's running the show behind the scenes and trying to make headway or trying to get attention, did a good job of putting this out. So this was big news. Okay, so this is one of the surprises, along with the Red River there, that came into being right on the 19th. And of course, El Trumpo posted a video, and now it's all over the mainstream, especially on Fox and, Onan, One American News, and some of the other ones. It's all over there. But of course, mainstream media won't touch it with a stick, even though Fox News is kind of mainstream media. But anyway, they basically came out with a report saying that, they enriched their whole family. Okay, and so Redacted does a fantastic job of breaking it all down if you want to check that out. Here's the title. There's a link down below. But again, those of us who have been following all this stuff know, what's been going on. So this is nothing new, but the fact that it came out on the 19th is a little surprising. Now, while all this was going on, also on the 19th, a huge volcano erupts in Russia. And some may say, well, that's not a big deal, whatever. Well, anytime a major volcano erupts around the world, it is a big deal. Remember, I predicted a while back in one of my visions that volcanoes were going to continue to be erupting around the world. And as more and more volcanoes erupt, leading up to about 2027 is what I was shown, that's when the Earth continues to go through its changes. Remember, we're going through a physical change. The Earth is actually moving. The magnetic fields are moving. There is science to prove this. Okay, and so this is something to keep an eye on, as I've been saying all along, that as multiple volcanoes erupt around the world simultaneously, that's when it's time to pay attention, okay, to the Earth. And if you live in low-lying regions along coastal lines in the United States, you need to pay attention because water levels, and there's a lot of flooding going around the world in different pockets. And other YouTubers are talking about that, like David Dubine. He covers a lot of the flooding that's going on around the world. And he saw China, he saw some other places, and even in the United States, in the Midwest. There was a lot of flooding going on there. So this is why this is important, to just keep an eye on the volcano situation, okay? The other thing that I saw, I came across this on, I believe it was Instagram or X. Australians will be required to submit ID to access the internet. How about that one? How about that for a nice little surprise? Those of you in Australia, put a comment in a comment field. Let me know what's going on down there. I do have some clients down there. I will reach out to them and get a little more confirmation. But look at what's happening. And I've said this before, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, some of these other countries are completely under the thumb of the deep state. And they cannot, wiggle their way out of this stuff unless the people kind of, wake up and start removing some of these people politically through their elections or something. So we're seeing this as another surprise. And this was in the week leading up to the 19th. So still, in that realm of awareness. Also, during Musk's talk with, Mr. T, it got delayed because of a so-called massive cyber attack. It took, about half an hour, 40 minutes to get that all situated, and Epic Times is reporting on that. This is, again, in that week leading up to the 19th. So this still falls under the category of, and of course, Mercury has been retrograde. So we have that dynamic in place. So I'm showing you some of the stories that were attached to this full moon because of the timing. All right. And these are surprises. Nobody expected a cyber attack. But then again, we've already experienced that a couple of weeks ago with CrowdStrike, right? So we need to pay attention to that as well. But here is one of the big things that I discovered. If you've been following Elon and his work, he's got a craft here. And I was watching this video. I left the link down below. That he's got this, aircraft that could go, 4,600 miles an hour. And it's being fueled in a different way. And it does kind of look like a spacecraft of some kind. And, and he's talking, and this person's talking about it and showing you pictures and so on and so forth. But of course, this is all being hush hush. And of course, those of us that have been down the rabbit hole of extraterrestrials and UFOs and everything, and I know a lot about this topic, the evidence seems to be overwhelming that we do have craft like this, and we've had them for about 40 years. And so this is not surprising to me. And again, this is a snapshot. I don't know if this is an artist rendering, or I know it's called X1. That's the only thing I know according to the video. But this is also in the mix, and this falls under the category of surprises and surprise information. So stuff is slowly, trickling its way out, as it will continue to do. Okay. Here's another story that was very surprising. The UK to release 5,000 prisoners to make way for this. Okay, anti-blah blah, protesters. Now again, I don't know what the hell's going on in the UK there. It's obviously they're trying to take down the whole system, and the leaders there are making so many obvious decisions, causing chaos on purpose. And of course, this is all part of the plan as well. Disrupt, cause chaos, anger, frustration. And this seems to be another story. Again, this was a few days before the 19th that I saw. I don't think I have a link for this, but you could, Google it or at least try and see if you could find it on social media. This is from the BBC News, so it should be easy. It's called Prison Overcrowding. And so, this is another story that was kind of surprising. Now, this one was really surprising that nobody is talking about. And so here, the Next News Network and Gary Franchi, who does a pretty good job, he's got a pretty big network and so on. He talks about how Texas is investigating Silicon Valley and the big tech companies, and it looks like they're going to subpoena a lot of information from Google and some of the other social media platforms talking about election interference. So once again, we're seeing Texas leading the way in some sort of change, as I've predicted, because of the two eclipses we had over Texas. And Texas is definitely absolutely going to be in the spotlight for the entire year, maybe the next several years, where it leads the way in some way for reform or change. And this story was very interesting. Okay, so this is another surprise, and even surprised me. Nowhere else could you find this. And so he actually has an interview with somebody that's involved in this. So please watch this. This is very important as well. Okay, and it looks like they're going after the big tech companies with their, censorship. So we'll see what happens. But I left the link down below for this story. Now, this one, another surprise took place on the 17th, a couple of days before. And this was reported by the Gateway Pundit. Security officers exchanged gunfire with multiple active shooters at Air Force Base in San Antonio. Why wasn't this on mainstream news? And so we don't know who the shooters were. We're not sure. They're still investigating it. But again, this falls under the category of the full moon and surprises and activity that is sort of rebellious. And, so I just question who in their right mind would want to have a shootout with a U.S. military base. They're very well armed. So apparently whoever has done this may not be that bright, or maybe they're not even from this country. Who knows? Okay. But this is another story that was very surprising. We have this one that just came out, and this one was really surprising to me because this was RFK's, and I just took a screenshot here. This was from RFK. His running mate is basically going around social media, and she does an interview saying, well, we can't, align with the Democrats, so I guess we're going to have to go with Trump. So here we see her actually making a statement, about joining forces with Mr. T. So that's big news, and that was announced this morning, today on August the 20th. So this is going to be very interesting as well. We'll have to see where that goes. I mean, we're looking at a really interesting next couple of months with the political nonsense. Also, if you haven't been paying attention, this story was going around, and there was another one. This was on the 3rd at the beginning of the month. Now, some have speculated that this is hype in order to hype up XRP and, drive that price through the roof. And it could be, The only reason I give it any credibility is because the SEC took XRP and sued them and was threatening them and all that stuff. And the SEC, basically SEC works for JP Morgan and these criminal institutions. They really wanted this cryptocurrency, you see. And so, again, this is a story to keep an eye on. And Wells Fargo has the same story here on the 14th. They said the same thing, that they're going to accept payments in XRP. So you got both these big criminal banks, JP Morgan and Wells Fargo, who are going to begin to accept XRP. As I've been saying all along, and many others, we're going to have some form of digital currency. As I've said all along, we're going to have competing currencies. You'll be able to pay with maybe gold and silver or regular money or digital currency, credit card, whatever it is. There'll be multiple ways that we'll be able to pay for things. So we're starting to see the beginning stages of this, and we will continue to see that. Okay? So anyway, I wanted to give you a little overview of that, and if you're interested in speaking of numbers, of course I have this free mini report link down below. Check it out. You put your name and your birthday in. Now, I have no affiliation with the site. My team has found these places where you get these mini reports, and if you decide to buy something, great, and we make a little commission on it. It's not a big deal. It's just a way of helping us and supporting us while you get some valuable information. Okay. We also have one for a free moon reading, which is very good. I've actually read mine. And so there's a link down below for that. And of course, if you're interested in joining the free community, which is on the left, Astrology with Joe, but on the right, I have my inner circle where we do Zoom calls every week, and we go much deeper and we dive into what's really going on, and I could speak totally, more freely on that platform. And so check out the links down below. And of course, remember, friends, as we go through this weird time, we are spiritual beings having human experiences. That's what it comes down to. Once you understand that and you live your life that way, nothing else will bother you. You start to go, life is wonderful. Things are great. I'm going to do the best I can. That's why I post this thing up. All right? So have a great week. Let's see what happens over the course of the next week or two. The energy is still very weird and wonky, and I'm sure there'll be other stories that come into the picture. All right. So anyway, have a great week, and I will talk to you folks soon. Bye for now.